We're
Right,
in.
okay. We are good to go. So, no intro, nothing like that. We've already kind of started chatting shit. You are actually the first episode. So I always record these things in seasons and then drop like 8 episodes at a time, just because I am not organized to do one every single week. So you're going to be the first episode that goes up. So if I'm a bit rusty, it is what it is. Hello, Geoff.
So wait. So what you're saying is it's not because I'm the best or anything like that. It's just there's no reason, there's no method behind your man. It's just because you're sloppy. That's what you're saying.
What actually might happen is what I'm trying to say is I might look bad because you're so good. That's all it is, right? I'm just
You
trying
you could you could never look bad because you are that much of a hero. So don't worry
to.
about that, my man.
There we go. Shall we just spend 45 minutes sucking each other
Just
off?
just compliment each other. Yeah, why not? Why not? Yeah, and then
Let's
call
do
everyone
it.
a cunt at the end. Call everyone a wanker at the end. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. We will get to that, I'm sure. Right. So the reason I asked you to come on here is we both spoke at Mike and Dan's event back in November, I believe it was. And I'd never met you before then. I'd never heard of you. I didn't follow you, anything like that. And I thought you came across really, really well in your talk. I think you've got some interesting opinions, I think most of which we will agree on. But more importantly, like last season, I had quite a few, not like big names, but bigger names on. And I'm really conscious that I don't just want to kind of like give spotlights to the people that I've kind of already got the spotlight. What I really like about your story is you don't have many followers. You are a normal-ish person and you've still managed to build a successful business, but also B, the thing that I'm more focused on is the impact that you have on other people and the work that you do with other people. So I think the best place to start is probably give us almost like a whistle stop tour of your entry into the fitness industry and coaching.
So before I went. I took the business online in 2019. I was a one-to-one PT before that, so it's kind of the standard story of a lot of people start on the gym floor. The gym floor for me was invaluable. It really was. It was precious time spent learning a lot about human emotion, a lot about the things that people struggle with, and of course actually seeing people train and that side of that side of things. So on the gym floor, I pretty much got fed up of at this point, I was running my own studio, and the money was good. I was bringing in good money, but I wasn't getting job satisfaction, which for me, that fulfillment on a day to day is crucial. It really is. It comes way before. I've got this belief that if you do a good job in anything, money will follow. It was the same when I was building the one to one. I was always kind of busy as a one to one PT. So 2019, I started transitioning online, and back then there really was no real resources. There was nothing to kind of like, social media was a much quieter place. Instagram was a very different place. Instagram Reels, as an example, didn't exist. It was
Yeah.
a complete, this was like
Well,
infographics and
this is before COVID forced everybody
this is
online, isn't
before, correct. So I think from a timing point of view, for me, it was good. Like I do believe in, a bit of luck along the way. So I think timing wise, now it's ironic. I remember when I felt like an absolute newbie to the online world. I feel like a dinosaur now. I feel like the last 6 years have like flown by.
Yeah.
And it's been a roller coaster, but it's been great. So 2019, I essentially started trying to go online and I started trying to make content, and I just realized that I had a lot more to give than just the training side of things, which was really all one-to-one PT is. I knew how important the nutritional side of things was going to be, and the real struggles, even just from talking to people doing one-to-one, was it came in the day-to-day, it came in weekends, it came in motivation, it came in all these kind of far deeper things than like I always complain about. It's not training plans and meal plans. You can Google that. It's not, unless you're an elite athlete. Some of the bodybuilding coaches, they're going to get away with very basic kind of what am I trying to say? Basic, meal plans and training and the basics, because they've got these clients that are going to be adherent. So 2019 was like, I want to go online. I don't know how to do it. So I basically did a trial run with one of my wife at the time was, she's still my wife now. It's the wrong way of wording it. One of my, at the time, still the same wife. She was working for KPMG, and it was one of her colleagues, Paul, who just by pure convenience and probably part of the reasons that kind of got me into coaching over the years was just like, I was kind of already doing it. I was that guy that when I did work normal jobs years ago, people would go, oh man, I want to get back into training. I want to do this. And I was kind of coaching and mates and people that wanted to do this. So Paul, I used as a guinea pig, and I coached Paul for free for 12 weeks, which was still an incredible decision. It was an absolute kick in the bollocks because he didn't sign up at the end. He did so well. He lost 10 kilos in 12 weeks. It was the ultimate kick in the balls. And like, I'd set my prices back then, like low, like they were like 150, and it really did dent me. So I actually brought my prices down after that because I was convinced it was like too expensive, as opposed to it wasn't. It was
I
all
was
in
going
my
to
head.
say,
So
a guy that's working for KPMG is at 150 quid. It's probably not.
oh, mate. So yeah, but Paul did phenomenal, and I basically, before I give you my full life story, and this podcast is just finished on my history, but essentially coached him for free, got incredible results, and just bombarded Instagram with it. So I'm not just talking social proof in pictures. I'm talking about, I was messaging him because I had the time back then. I was messaging him 3-4 times a day. I'm not joking. Morning, mate. How we getting on? It was just non-stop. We were in our points of contact were literally all day, every day. So of course, every single positive response, oh, best session ever. I've got the best pump. It's just screenshots, just click, click, click. Yeah. And then anything he was struggling with along the way, I was kind of really piecing together at this point. It's like, okay, cool, that's content. So anything he'd go, oh man, I really struggled with this. I'm like, well, that's content. That's just, if he's struggling with that, then someone else is going to struggle with that. And again, this was where my hours on the gym floor, I think, really paid off, because I was like, well, I know this is a common thing. I know people struggle with this. So started making content. My content was shit. But at the end of the day, it was practice, as everything. It's practice, repetition. And then it's just the evolution of, reels came along. I think by 2021 was when I fully left the gym floor. So there was a time where I was doing a bit of both. My goal really was just to get the online to a point where it meant I could just stop. I was getting fed up of the early month. I'd had kids by this point, so I was getting fed up of early mornings, late evenings, usual shit. I wouldn't have seen my daughter at all. She was a baby. I was obsessed with her. She's naughty now. My kids are just a pain in the ass now.
Yeah, your kids are fucking hilarious.
Zach is Instagram sees 1% of Zach as well. I try and remind people of this. It's like you're getting 1%. There's 99% more carnage that you don't see.
He's like a wild animal.
Yeah. So yeah, man, that's pretty much. I think 2021 was where I fully sacked one-to-one PT off, which was huge for me. I felt like fully online. It was a big accomplishment. And then to be honest, from 2021, it's just been consistent growth. So it's just been photo shoots and stuff you can see in the background, and the quality, the level of results have just gone up and up. The content's got better and better, and it really is just like an upward trajectory of just everything I've ever believed in that, do a good job, serve people well, coach people hard, get the results that they want, and business will keep growing. I've never met anyone to this day that's not doing a good job and then isn't eventually getting rewarded for it, if that makes sense.
I think it's something really important to kind of like talk about. So this whole having to put the fucking work in, put the yards in, do the reps, all that sort of stuff, use whatever analogy you want, right? Ever cliche you want. It was a similar thing for me. So I fell into the coaching industry by accident. I was a friend of mine at the time had a really successful coaching business, and he basically just needed somebody to do his admin. So I essentially fell into this as an admin bitch. I was DJing full time. So this is 2019. I was DJing full time, doing a few hours in hospitality. And basically I had most of my days free. And this guy was like, if I could pay you 500 quid a month, will you just come and do my admin and keep me alive? So he was handling like 50 clients or whatever. I was like, yeah. And then as he started to grow, I was like, do you know what? I want a fucking piece of this. Like I was seeing the impact and the feedback from people, and I was like, I want a piece of this. So I did something similar. I actually took 10 people on, all of which I knew, for free. And this is like, we had this conversation actually inside the Amplifier on one of the calls yesterday of like, what should your service look like? I was like, well, I took 10 people on and 7 of them got incredible results, all people that I knew. So do you know when everyone's like, clients for free don't get results, or people that don't get results? I'm like, maybe you're just not that great yet. And that's Literally. Fine, right? That's fine. So I got these 7 results, but we were talking about, one of my big messages is spend more time coaching and you have to spend less time doing the business side of things. Yep. And we just had an open conversation about what does that actually look like. And I said the same thing. And I think, obviously I'm biased, but I think the coaches inside the Amplifier are some of the best coaches in the industry because of what we're covering. But even when I said, I used to message every single client every single morning, and not a copy and paste message, like a personalized, like, for example, on a Wednesday, I would go into somebody's True Coach on the Tuesday and go, mate, I saw you've added 2 reps on your incline dumbbell press. Well done, but you missed your protein by 14 grams. What happened there? Every single day. And then at the end of the day, another message at the end of the day. How's today gone? What do you need? How did your meeting go this afternoon? And starting to really develop that relationship. And like, I don't know where it came from because this is before my time and I was never in the fitness industry. But I don't know where this just set somebody up, give them weekly feedback came from. I'm like, I'm trying to say to people is, if you have the time, you should be doing whatever you can for your clients.
Yeah, and it just comes down. It's like values. I think you posted as one of your reels the other day where you talked about, your churn rates and bits and pieces. And here we are now, the beginning of March. Bear in mind, I now manage 100 clients at a time in the business, and I've had 3 people leave this year.
Hmm, that's
Like
insane.
it's yeah, and because I remember even I was obviously a coach with Dan, the same the event we spoke at, and I remember Dan even saying it on a call one time because I sort of he was mid sentence, he was talking about churn rate, and I just right whilst he was still talking, I opened up my sheet to track, and I was just because he said something about a 10% or a percent, I can't remember what the percentage was, and I was like, it was the same thing. I was like, Dan, I've had 4 people leave this quarter. It's just which is why the wait list is there now, because I'm
Which
in
is
this
what,
position where
less than 3%. Yeah, that's incredible.
it's
Yeah.
insane. It's absolutely insane. But that retention to me comes from that attention to detail, like you said, because I'm the same as you. I don't know where it's come from, this idea, and I'm sure that there are. I'm not. I'm 100% sure there are coaches out there that just go, well, I'm into fitness, I'm into bodybuilding, I'm in shape, so it's just like this is just the obvious, logical. Like this is the easy. This isn't going to be an easy kind of job for me, as opposed to genuinely like putting that attention to detail into caring about your client's results. Because one of the things, and I've said this to someone before, and it's one of my key. Like I've said it on Instagram a lot, is all I want and all I still the energy I put into everything now, all I want now is to be the coach I wish I had 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When I was getting into this 20 years ago, Instagram didn't exist. There was no social media. I'm pretty sure it's pre-YouTube, or it was like I was on forums. I was literally on
Yeah, yeah,
bodybuilding forums, and you're
I'm trying to
Googling.
think 20 years ago. What is like? Is that MySpace is still a thing 20 years ago,
I
right?
mean, I was like, it's actually funny. I've been recently kind of reacquainted with him, James Collier, who used to he went on. He's one of the co-founders of Fuel, and he's back on Instagram now, and we've sort of reconnected because James was like absolutely pivotal in my early years of learning when it comes to just everything I kind of not everything I know now, but those foundations that 25 years ago, where all I wanted to do was just learn about training, nutrition, the anabolic side of things, drugs and things that were fast. They were relevant to what I wanted to do longer term, and it was just this learning curve. And I just think like again, just reconnecting with him, and he was like, wow, look at the page and look at what you've done and look at this. And I was like, but this started with like there was no information back then. This was me
Yeah,
learning
yeah.
from you on a forum 20 years ago. So yeah, I just feel like the times have changed so drastically, and I think I just think some people now, it's like and they just see it as an easy ride.
I do. Admittedly, I do get it as well, right? So people, it's all right for me and you to sit on this. Like I had another source of income. I was able to take 10 clients on for free. You'd obviously done fairly well with the studio and stuff like that. I do want to talk about what you did before that, though, because you just said something really interesting there. So it's all right, and it's quote unquote, it's easy for us to sit there and say this, but people are passionate about fitness. Maybe they've not done in person and do want to go straight to online, which is what I did. I never did
Yep.
any in person. But they also need to get paid. So
Yep.
like on one hand, I'm like, do you know what? Fuck the state of things at the minute. Everyone's about how can I make money fast? How can I do this? How can I do that? But then on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, but 17-year-old Matt, who's just come out of school, he's really passionate about fitness and wants to do this, he also needs to pay the bills. So I'm like, it's such an interesting state at the minute of things.
Do you know what though? I think sometimes like when your back's against the wall. So in 2020, when we went into lockdown, I'd got like my first maybe 10 clients by that point. Things had taken off. I lost one-to-one at that point. So obviously when we went into
Yeah.
lockdown, fully lost. I wasn't doing any dodgy backdoor deals. At that point, when we first went into that first lockdown, no one was getting sneaky haircuts at that point, where everyone kind of went, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
It was the second lockdowns we all took the piss. We were like, oh, whatever, right? But in the first one, it was like PT fully went. I think I'd got up to about 10 clients, and half of them just left. That panic of like, what the fuck is going on? And it was just like, I remember each message was coming through, and I was just like, oh my God. Sarah's maternity leave had just come to an end, and she'd come down to like statutory basically, which was £500 a month. And I had 5 online clients at this point, and I was charging 100 a month back then, because that remember I talked about Paul and 150. I brought my prices down, and very quickly at that point went up to 150. So yeah, we live in St Albans. To give you an idea, our mortgage alone now is £2,000. We had between us, we had £1,000 coming in a month. So as much as like I understand, because everyone we all need to pay our bills. We've all got the basics to cover. But I know for me, weirdly, I sometimes feel more stressed out now than I did actually back then, when I was like, that was real. When I actually think back,
Yeah.
I was like, holy fuck. Like, I was like minus a couple of grand just for us to just stay above water. And I kind of didn't give a fuck, because I was just like, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to really, really go all in. And listen, I will admit, I do believe in a bit of luck, and I think the timing of lockdown, I was very kind of good at the time with, I really used that as the pain point. I was just like, hang on a minute, you're used to, my content. I was like, you're used to walking to the station and then walking on your lunch break, and now you're doing fuck all. You're going downstairs in the morning. And so I got my marketing just very quickly. I was just like, it was capitalizing on lockdown. So I was like, I know so many, and it's tragic because like literally people I know, and there are hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of businesses that lost everything in lockdown. And I was one of the lockdown success stories, because it was just like April 2020 was like £500 a month coming in, and by the end of 2020 I was smashing it. I was literally like, I was 30 clients, and I was in a position where I was nearly ready to knock one-to-one PT on the head. So
it was a similar story for me again. Like, I took advantage of it massively, because again, at my heaviest I was 150 odd kilos. I lost a fuck ton of weight, coached by Mike at the time, literally by walking and controlling my diet. So when everyone's like, I can't exercise anymore, I can't lose weight, I can't do this, I was like, you fucking what? I just started ramming my story out there, and people were like, oh, it can be done. And I had people come to me literally for the reason that I'd managed to lose weight and stuff like that. So yeah, I do agree. I think it's whatever you make of the situation. I want to go back, because you said something there about kind of like kids that are in shape, love the gym, love training, passionate about it for themselves, and then think they should turn it into a job. So you mentioned you were doing in person, you mentioned you were running a studio. Did you get straight into fitness from school, college? What's like?
So my real backstory went like full circle. So yeah, I got into training and fitness in my teens. So it was like I first picked dumbbells up in, I was 14, 15. I moved out really young. I was 19 when I moved out. So I was by that point I was training. I was like seriously training. I'm 38 now, so I always think of like the last 20 years have been serious training, and then there was a few years before that where I was still picking up dumbbells. You see pictures of me at 15, 16, and I'm lean, and there's sort of an outline of abs, and I look reasonably in shape for a kind of 15, 16-year-old kid. So I started off in a gym. So I was working in a gym at 16, and this is quite funny, because this is again how it kind of goes full circle. Is at 16, when I was working in the gym, I soon realized, and I'll say it like that. At the time, my genuine belief at the time was there's no money in this industry. So I was earning, I mean, obviously we are going back quite, I'm showing my age now. I'm going back obviously more than 20 years, literally 25 years, but nearly, I was on £5 an hour. I was on like, it wasn't enough for, and even like at the time, if I remember, I'm pretty sure because I was covering the duty manager at the gym at the time, which I was 16 years old, so a lot of the older guys were hating it, because they were like, why are they leaving this guy in charge? But it's just because my work ethic is good. There was no other reason. It was like, my boss at the time, Stuart, I'll never forget him, he's a legend, but he was just like, this guy will show up, he will always be there, he will never let me down. And it was just like, he could show up at 4 a.m. or 10 p.m. I'd be there. I always had that work ethic. So yeah, I kind of left the fitness industry not long after that, because if I remember the duty manager job, and I know we're going back many years, but it was 18 grand a year. It was just, I saw no money in it. And any of the PTs that worked at that gym were not, they were just, that sounds horrible, I'm doubting any of them will ever watch this, so it doesn't matter. They were just shit PTs, you know what I mean? They were like, so I genuinely had this belief system at the time that I was just like, okay, cool, well, I love this, and this is the world that I love, but it's not going to pay off. And I think there's that reality check that, listen, if someone's got that genuine mindset where they can go, I don't need the money, I don't care about the money, and I'm just absolutely passionate about this thing, and I don't care. But I think the reality for me is, it was just like, I wanted to move out. I did move out, and I wouldn't have been able to survive off what I was earning at that point. And so I left the fitness world, and I spent best part of a decade working at Heathrow, working at the airport. I started on security, and I completely left the fitness industry, and it was actually via leaving there I got payoff, and that payoff was where I was like, well, what do I want to do with my life? And I was like, well, actually I want to go back to that fulfillment of doing something I enjoy. And that's when I went back to PT, and that was when I sort of picked up my client base, and I was happy plodding along. But like I say, that was the real catalyst for me wanting to go online, because I got to that point where it was plodding. I knew I was plodding, if that makes sense. Like there's a time and a place to plod along in your life, and I got to that point where I was done with plodding.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I do think you need periods of like almost stability where you can start to collect your thoughts and figure out the next moves.
And kids change the game. I know people say that, and it does sound like a cliche, but they really do, because you just go further down the pecking order. Do you know what I mean? It just got to that point where it was like, when kids started coming along, my responsibilities just went up, and it just became a point of like, I can't, something I need to do more. I need to do more, and I soon realized that Sarah, my wife, she didn't want to go back to work. She was very, very maternal, and she wanted to stay at home with Ken. It just started planting all these seeds. I was like, I need to do bigger. I need to do more. At one point, I was thinking of opening a gym. In 2019, I nearly opened a gym. So I'd got a little bit more entrepreneurial at that point, and I was like, okay, cool, time to do more than just plodding along.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it's only really recently, to be fair, maybe last 2 or 3 years, that I've started thinking about these things. Like, obviously, Maria, to be fair, 3 years ago, I'd only just not even met Maria yet, and now we're married. And now we are obviously at some point in the future, if we are lucky enough to have kids. The reason that I'm working so hard now is for that. It's so that I can, like, not take my foot off the gas, but be present, spend a little bit more time. Because I speak to so many people that grafted through the first 2 to 3 years, whether they are self-employed entrepreneurial people or people that have had to, or people in your standard 9 to 5 that basically got the 2 weeks paternity or whatever it is and kind of weren't there. And I'm like, I just that's not something that I want for my life. So you got to put the fucking graft in now, man.
Yeah, 100%.
So I want to talk about, I've got one more question on that then, and then I want to talk about your service and coaching, because I really do like the way that you do things. What did you learn in your 10 years working at Heathrow that has helped you now? Because I'm a firm believer that prior experience, like me in hospitality, it was all about customer service.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I do now, whether it's a coincidence or not, is all about customer service.
Yeah, 100%. So for me, that a lot. So I studied psychology, probably something I should have mentioned. So when I failed. It was quite funny. I hate the education system, but I was like, I love learning. So it was like, I actually did A level. I did psychology A level, and I wanted to go, and I didn't want to go to university, but I was like, in my head, I was like, wanted to go full down that kind of like some sort of therapist kind of, like, go down that kind of route. And I've always loved like human behavior. I think it's still 90% of good coaching now is just understanding human emotions. So I think that working, the 10 years I did there, a few years were customer facing, and then not so much. When I was on security and it was customer facing, it was like, again, it was just lessons in human emotion and how people react when they're in stressful environments, because airports actually are quite stressful environments. People, sure. I could tell you stories of people missing flights and running late, and so you're seeing like literally grown adults crying, trying to beg you to let them through a gate, and you're like, I can't. It's like you've literally missed your flight. So yeah, I think it was useful life lessons, and I think there was also a huge side of it that was just like a lesson to not work for other people. Like I now, like via doing that job, it's like I now look back and I'm like, holy shit, I am so unemployable. It is ridiculous, because there was a huge side of me I can't remember if I talked about this when I was in Nottingham, but like I had to really shut off a side of my personality. And I think one of the things that I've excelled at running the coaching business now is just being myself with content. Is just, I'm fucking weird. My sense of humor is absolutely retarded. I use horrific words like retarded and fucking, I swear all day long. And I'm just like, I couldn't do that in especially the second part of my career there. It was a bit more corporate, and I was just like, I had to like shut off 80% of my personality. And when I actually look back, I cannot reiterate how much it does damage. It's like damaging to your soul. Do you know what I mean? When people talk about jobs being soul destroying, I'm like, yeah, because you can't be yourself. You can't. When Sarah worked for KPMG, I used to come down sometimes. I'd be working in here, and I'd come down, and she'd be like if she was working from home, she'd be in the dining room, like on a call, and she'd be doing her nails. So I'd clock that like the camera and everything would be off, and I'd be like, is everything off? And she'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like this at the screen. I'd go, who's that? And she's like, that's my boss. And she's like, and I'd be like, who's that? And she's like, oh, he's a bit of a dick. Like but it's just, she's there doing her nails. She's not listening to any of this. She's left now, so it doesn't matter. I can say all this shit. She just, and I was like, it was soul destroying. I remember she was so unhappy when she worked there. I've seen her in tears. I've seen her when she used to go into the office. I've seen her walk in the door, and I knew it was coming. She'd just walk through and just erupt into tears. And I'm like, how can you allow the workplace to make you feel that way? And I think that's what happens when, I know when I've been my absolute most stressed out in this office, it's still a very different type of stress. It's almost like I can get so stressed out, and then I just pinch myself at the end of it, and I'm like, but look at what you've done, and this is all for you, this is all for my family, this is all for us, and this is incredible. Do you know what I mean? And it's also so fulfilling, it's outrageous. So that stress, all of a sudden you manage to kind of like learn to manage that stress a little bit better, as opposed to, I can't imagine some of the clients I work with, they talk to me about some of their work stress, and I'm like, but your job's shit. Like I said, you hate your job. You hate, like, you're getting stressed out at something that you don't even like. You're not passionate about. So yeah, I think my time at the my time not working in the fitness industry was like, it was a bit of a double-edged sword. It was lots more human emotion and lots more human behavior, the psychological side of I was very much known as the, when I worked on security especially, I was the peace bringer, because whenever anyone was kicking off anywhere, they'd go, Geoff, because I just had this really calming energy. And again, now when I coach, it's one of those things. I go, I'm sure you've had a million of them yourself. The reply you get after a check-in is like, "Thank you, I needed to hear that." It's it's that voice of reason sometimes. It's not always hard coaching. Sometimes it really is actually like that voice of reason, just to make someone go, "Oh, okay," so they can make the next necessary step. So yeah, it was like a double-edged. It was like lots more human emotion, followed by, don't ever work for anyone other than yourself ever again, because it's shit.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Even in this world now, even in this industry now, I've been in situations where I've worked for other people, and I'm looking back now, and I'm like, do you know what? I learned so much, and I'm very, very grateful for the opportunities. But
never again. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, never again. You touched on something there when you were talking that is one of the things that really stood out to me about your talk, and I made the point in my talk as well. And it's about, and I see this a lot in the fitness industry, of number one, knowing who you are, and number two, not being a fucking pussy about it, like being okay with leaning into it. And we both touched on that there, and that's the same thing. Like I did, again, 6 months. I lasted 6 months in corporate, me, and then I was like, yeah,
nope.
This is definitely. And I knew that my time was up when I was doing IT, business to business sales. And again, I don't know if any of these people listen to it. A few of them still follow me on Instagram. And I was basically, I'd been brought in on this graduate scheme, and I had to cold call as many businesses as possible to find out how many members of staff they had. If they had over 50, I'd then pass them on to a team, then they'd get sold to. That was it. And I remember I was just like, I looked around like the sales floor, and everybody's old and bold, which I'm getting older and I'm bold, so fucking ironic now. But like poor posture, staring at the screens, miserable, like constantly raiding vending machines and stuff like that. And I'm just like, this is not for me. And I realized I got a 6-month probation. I'm like, at this point, I was getting paid maybe 1,800 quid. And that for straight out of uni was like, holy shit, right? Okay. 1,800 quid. And I was like, I'd made the decision at like month 2 that I was just going to see the 6 months out and then figure it out after that. And what I'd done is basically we got like audited on call time. So how much time you spent when somebody's picked up the phone. And in my cold calling, I'd found these 3 numbers that basically it would go straight to an answer phone, and then the answer phone wouldn't cut you off. So what I would do is I'd sit there, I'd dial a number, and I'd literally have a headset like you've got now.
Chilling.
And I'd just sit there making it look like I was doing stuff. And then basically it got picked up that it was these same 3 numbers. They ran the 3 numbers through the system. It wasn't like a business profile that had been registered or anything like that. And I remember my manager at the time, who, me being at the time probably 140 kilos, playing American football, fairly handy. And I remember this sales manager, my manager, I'm not going to name him because he's a nice bloke, maybe 5'4" and maybe 70 kilos, like rinsing me down in his office. And I knew it was time for me when I was like, I could headbutt you now.
This guy could be finished in seconds. This could be end game.
But again, like I've never been afraid to be myself and kind of lean into it. And I think it's really important in this industry to differentiate yourself more than anything.
I agree. And you know what, even like social media, it is a negative space. And like, I in this last literally couple of weeks, I've had a few reels that have gone kind of like my version of semi-viral. It's always when I mentioned the great Eddie Abu, all his cult come out in true fashion. But I mean, like, I've been abused in the comments. Some of the comments, you always attract those people that get kind of abusive. But someone I follow on Instagram had a reel go viral in within the last couple of weeks, and like, I've had it with one of my clients as well. Like I now coach quite a few coaches, and like where they've had like negative comments, and they can't really handle it very well. I actually know someone, there's a guy in my gym, so this is now 3 people that I'm just literally off the top of my head, who was a PT, wanted to start going online and gave up because he just could not deal with like the hate and any kind of comments. And I couldn't give a shit. Like I'm like a child. I'm like when I'm reading some fucking idiot on the end of a, you know, someone that's actually gone out of their way to leave some stupid
No
comment.
picture.
Yeah. There's no picture, or if there is, it's like the, you know, like I'm looking at someone that I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to take criticism from this guy anyway. And like, I sort of I love it because I'm just like, well, I know how to keep that algorithm going. So I'm like really playful with my responses as well, even when they're like horrific. I've had ones where they're like, they actually get abusive, or they say something like really, really kind of nasty, and I'm like lol, like laughing emoji, and then I'm like, so what, you know, I like carry the conversation. I've had people full, like a bit like when I said when I worked on security and I used to tone people down. I've had full on apologies. I think that one that went a couple of weeks ago, some guy called me a cunt. His opening statement was he called me a cunt, right? Called me, it was me and Ben, he called us a pair of cunts. And then there's about 4 or 5, 6 messages exchanged between me and him, and at the end he's just like, would love to collab with you one day, man. Like this is right. So I mean, like,
did I just get lead gen?
for me, it's water off a duck's back. It's like that kind of like, and I think that just edges me more to just be more and more myself, because I don't need validation from everyone. I think that you know, when I look at some of my favorite characters and people that I follow and people that I like, they tend to be more polarizing characters. They're not ever you mention them to someone else and someone goes, oh, I can't stand him, and I'm like, he's fucking great, he's the funniest guy ever. So I just think like, I think there's a lot of coaches now that, you know, they're just very bland, vanilla, whatever phrase you want to use. And this and I don't know, sometimes I sit there and I'm like, maybe they are just boring, like maybe that is there, and then maybe they need to try and lean into somehow that and just kind of be like, I do believe that it's a little bit like the saying, you know, when you from a, you know, a relationship point of view, there's someone out there for everyone, you know, that kind of saying. It's just like, well, yeah, so if you are a bit on the boring side, but I genuinely believe, I think a lot of people tone things down. It goes back to what I said when I was in the corporate world, and I noticed myself, just like, I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm like, anytime I wanted to make a joke, I was like, nope. Like anytime I wanted to say what I really felt, I was like, nope. And so you're just hiding this side of your personality. And I think, again, even when I look at my content from 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it was still a very much more toned down version of me. I've just got a lot better over the years now of being like, all the weird shit that I do at home in front of my missus and the kids, and I'm just like, I just do it in reels. I just don't care now. Like those silly noises, because I'm like, that's how I act in front of my mates. That's how I'd like, people would just be like, oh, he's fucking weird, but I don't care. Do you know what I mean? They're the very things that now my audience go, this is funny, this is great, and someone else will just go, unfollow, I hate this guy, and I'm okay with that, because I think, again, too many coaches just want to be liked by everyone. I'm like, yeah, but they're not,
especially other coaches.
Oh man, yeah, and there's nothing worse. I mean, like, I've had it where like they're all my friends, don't get me wrong, like it's all I'm sure it's all like what's the word, it's not ill-natured, if you know what I mean. But I've done it where I've like really, really attacked, like, for example, something that's bodybuilding specific or meal plans or something, where I really, really go in on Instagram. And I walk into the gym in the afternoon and it's like all my mates, they're all the bodybuilding coaches. They're all there. They're all sitting there at the table. I've had it before. I've walked in, I feel like it goes silent as well. And I'm like, oh shit, were they all just tearing me apart? But they're all my friends. It's all light-hearted. And I think any coach should be out there understand. I've had coaches kicking off on my reels and I'm like, you're not going to buy from me. I'm like, if you've got a polar opposite opinion, I was like, go and make a reel about it. Go and be like, I saw some fucking idiot with a beard on Instagram the other day. Right. Let's like go and do your own thing. Like, and this is the thing that I can't understand. I'm like, yeah, just say what you think, just say what you believe in, and off you go. Like, who fucking cares? If it's I see there sometimes, I'm like, have you noticed that everyone's got, you know, like the things you'd say in front of your mates or your missus that you just were like, oh no, I probably wouldn't get away with saying that on Instagram. I'm like, no, do it, because that's the whole point. It's like,
fuck around and find out, isn't it? You strike me as the person, to be fair, that actually gets off me. Is it a sadist or a masochist? I can't remember which one it is. That is like, abuse me.
Masochist, yeah. I'm on there just wanting the trolls to come in. To be fair, it's not. My page isn't too bad actually. It's just, it will just be certain subjects, the touchy subjects, and then of course what it is with me is the troll side of me comes out, like, because I know Eddie Abu gets the bites. It makes me want to make more reels mentioning. So it's that kind of, in a way, I am like, okay, cool, let's do it again. Let's piss them off again.
Yeah, I mean, certain people not being able to handle it blows my mind because I'm running some ads now, not loads, but just like awareness stuff. The amount of bottom feeders ads bring out is ridiculous. And there have been times where I run it by Maria because she's a little bit tamer than me. So like I'll type a response and then I'll show Maria and she'll either say yes or no. It's almost like thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm like, right, okay. Okay. So knowing who you are and stuff like that, now I want to talk about how that translates to your coaching. So my first question for you is, you mentioned you've been coaching a long time overall, but let's really focus on the online side of things. What, from you, when you think back to what you thought coaching was in 2019 to what you know it to be now, what's the biggest kind of like shift you've had in the way that you deliver service?
So I definitely coached a little bit too. So in 2019, when I first started coaching, I did genuinely believe that despite not wanting to go down the route of, physique coaching, that's the wrong way of putting it, bodybuilding, going like the actual bodybuilding route, like where it was more going to just be like lifestyle clients and guys that wanted to drop weight and guys that just wanted to, much more about how they felt, guys that didn't want to be at the swimming pool, with the rolls hanging over their swim shorts and there's that dad over there that's with a six pack. I'm not these days. I have got some pretty elite physiques and photo shoots that's come over the years of my own coaching getting better and then results getting better and that kind of snowball effect. But I think for me, it was like, it was just, back then I definitely thought it would be covering a lot more just nutrition alongside training. Obviously, as a one-to-one PT, I was just doing training. I thought there'd be just more nutrition. Like now, 6 years on, it's like, no, this is a game of psychology. It is literally like you're dealing with human emotion and you're dealing with people's stress and people's lives, and training and nutrition are like, they're of course extremely important in their own right, but they're a small percentage.
So far down.
They're so far down the pecking order for the majority of clients that I coach. So yeah, I think just, and then there's the flip side of that is that I think back then I used to not coach hard enough. So I think I used to be a little bit too much like when people would struggle because of things that were going on in their life, I was a little bit too, I don't know, too compassionate, but I was a little bit too maybe soft with my kind of like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll go again this week kind of thing.
I think the word is like, it's the difference, sympathy versus empathy, right? Sympathy is basically, oh, it's okay.
Oh, it's okay. Right. Yeah.
Empathy is, I get it. Now let's
literally. So I think there you go. That's probably a great. So I was probably just far too sympathetic back then, and like, oh no, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. And I used to almost play into it and just be like, oh no, it's fine. I actually got called out by one of my own clients who I did like an 8-week shred of my own, and obviously posted it all over. This was 2021. Posted it all over Instagram. This was a real pivotal point for me. He's still with me now. He said something like, "How have you done that so quick?" And I just remember I replied and I was like, well, I didn't fuck about. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, no takeaways, no this, no this. I was like, again, I've got that level of adherence that I've got photo shoot lean and I'm at that stage. For me personally, it's not particularly, it's not the most difficult thing. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. And because then he turned around and said something like, why don't you coach me like that?
I do. Yeah.
And I was like, I was speechless. For once in my life, I've got an answer for fucking everything. And I was literally just like, okay. And I was like, well, are you ready for this? And he was like, yeah. He goes, if you've just done that if you've just dropped 8 kilos in 8 weeks, I want to drop 8 kilos in 8 weeks. And I was like, okay. So we had the conversation. I was like, you do realize this means we're going to be, the level of effort, the level of, how meticulous we are with all these things need to change. Let's fucking go. And so I think from that point, I really started cranking up the dial. And even now in those first sort of, it's a very what's the word? Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword because you've got that first, for me, I call it 4 weeks. That first kind of 4 weeks, you're really easing a lot of people into things that need to change and getting them, feeling better, energy and things that we want to, because you're not going to get these night and day physique results in 4 weeks. But I really do at the 4 week mark, and I kind of gear people up to this now. I'm like, right, at this, by the way, from next week, when we get to this 4 week mark, we've lost this much in 4 weeks, but we're going to turn this dial up. We're really going to start kind of like, and so I've just got a lot better at future pacing and kind of just setting that tone for people and just coaching that a little bit harder, but making sure that it is what they want, because that's backfired as well. I've had it before. I remember I had a client that I was like, it's that communication side of things. I had a client once that I was really pushing for more, and they sort of sent me this message, and it was almost, they were like, felt almost ashamed, but they're like, I'm really happy with how things are going. And they're like,
Yeah.
half a kilo a week for me is amazing and it's consistent. And I kind of don't care if it's going to take 6 months instead of 3 months. Like, I'm all right with it. Like, life's okay. It's all manageable. And it's like, so it's those conversations. But now I have those conversations. And when people are ready to turn up that dial, it's like, it's harder coaching. It's this, I definitely coach a lot harder now than I did 6 years ago.
I
And when I
think.
say harder sounds a bit brutal, but you know what I mean?
Oh,
Deeper, whatever.
we're gonna dive into that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are gonna dive into that. But I think that that second thing that you mentioned there, like you almost taking it too far, I think that's natural. I think because we see people's potential, where like I remember I had a client. To be fair, I'm not going to name him, but it was one of the last clients that I ever worked with before I started doing what I do now. And he'd gone from 140 to like 100 kilos, and he was buzzing, absolutely buzzing.
Yeah.
His wife was working with me as well. They were both over the moon, and he got down to this 100 kilo mark. And when he first signed up, he was like, "Oh, I just want to be at like 120." And I was like, in my head, I'm like, "You don't."
Yeah.
I'm like, having been there
Yeah.
myself, mine was I want to be, when I was 150, I just wanted to be 140. And then I just wanted to be. So I'm like, right, okay. And it got further than he ever thought possible. He'd not really had to make much sacrifice. Obviously, he had to make changes. And he got to like 100, and he sent me the message of like, oh, like I'm really, really happy. We're trying for a baby. I'm thinking about wrapping it up. And I had this internal conflict of like, mate, you look fucking sick at 90. Like, if we can get another, and I had to like catch myself and be like, hold on, this is about him. This is not about me. This is not about me. Maybe you could get an extra 10 off, but at what cost?
Yeah.
Like, what would it be to him? So I want to go back to something that you said. I have this conversation a lot with people on Instagram, and to be fair, inside the Amplifier. Where do you think you not wanting to push people at first came from?
Do you know what? Probably that fear of, which is funny because now it's not a thing at all, but probably that fear of like not wanting to like be a dick. Do you know what I mean? You know, like where you've got like someone that's, I don't know, dropping half a kilo a week, or if they're, you know, things have slowed down, like not wanting to be the bastard, basically, not wanting to be the bad guy that's going to do this. I think genuinely back then it was like a little bit more fear around kind of telling people off, or again, I say all these things because sometimes I never want it to sound brutal. I think I've got a very good way of, you know, when someone does get harsh words from me, they would never reply and go, "How dare you talk to me like that?" You know, it's delivered in a very specific way, and it's delivered, you know, diplomatically. But it's like it's telling people things that they need to hear, not want to hear, having those difficult conversations. And I mean, I've sent check-ins before where I fire off that send button and I'm like, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, it's harsh. And I'm like, I'm spending the rest of the day waiting for the WhatsApp message to come back to just like, is it going to be that message being like, yeah, I'm done, I've left, I'm I'm handing in my notice. So yeah, it's, and it's not like literally 99 times out of 100, that message is, yeah, I needed to hear that. Like, let's fucking go. And that's, I think, the side of coaching that's missing, because do you know what? I think like a lot of coaches get really, really, you know, I just mentioned it a minute ago. For me, 8 kilos in 8 weeks, easy. Dare I say it, easy. It really is. Like and I've got that confidence to do it. But we have to realize that that's not the case for my clients. That's why they come to me. That they struggle with understanding sometimes, you know, the actual, not just the process in its most simple form, but the actual like expectations and managing. You said something great a minute ago where you were like, you know, when people think they need to lose, I times two everything. When someone tells me they think they need to lose 5 kilos, I'm like, that's at least 10. When someone tells me they need to lose 10 kilos, I'm like, that's at least 20. Someone tells me they need to lose 20 kilos, like that's 40 kilos. I always times it by 2. And I think it's, again, people do think it's going to be easier than it is. And a lot of coaches don't understand that that's your job to teach someone. That is your job to manage that expectation. It's your job to anchor perspective to these things and to kind of really be that voice of reason to make someone, because that's where people get disappointed. That's where people get so fucked off with fat loss that they throw in the towel because they've tried before and they failed. So it's like, you need to be that voice of reason that actually explains to someone a process in its simplicity, of course, but then the hurdles and obstacles that come along, that the realities of most people when they've, you know, even when someone has got 30-40 kilos to lose, it's very rarely done in one stint. You know, I have had a small handful, but quite often anyone with that much fat to lose, you've got to have a couple of goes. You know what I mean? You've got to kind of come in and come out, and then come in and come out. I've had guys 3 or 4 fat loss phases before they get to the end of where they really want to get to. And of course, if you haven't explained that process or the expectations to someone, or what they need to actually do to get to that point, is a lot of coaches will blame the client and they'll just go, oh, well, you know, they weren't pulling their weight. And I'm like, well, do they know what that weight that you're talking about is? Do they know what these expectations are? Do they know what they, because it just comes back to this, your fucking job. It's literally your job.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like going back to the not wanting to be harsh, I don't even think it's being harsh. I think it's not wanting to literally do your job. Not wanting to do your job and hold people accountable. Everybody on Instagram at the minute is the selling accountability, but the shit at holding people accountable. They're really, really bad at it. And I think it comes from a place of fear of what if that client leaves? What if I send this message to this client or ask this client this brutal question and they dislike me for it? And I'm like, well, they might. But I tell you, and somebody said this, I think it was a guy called Simon Dutton. Fantastic. I think he said this to me and it's really stuck with me, is like, your clients might get pissed off with you short term for telling them how it is. But the thing that will piss them off the most is if you waste the time and money.
Correct.
Like, and they get 3 months, 4 months into the coaching and like, this is just not working. I'm off.
I would argue, and a phrase I used with one of my clients who's a coach is he had a real fear of that rejection, that kind of fear of you know, people not, like if he told people off, the fear of people leaving. And I said, the way I reframed it with him, I was like, well, surely if you're coaching them but not actually getting them results, then you're just doing them a disservice what they pay you for. And it was a sort of light bulb moment for him, because he was like, shit, it's true. It's like, these are not always going to be comfortable conversations. There are going to be difficult conversations, but at the end of the day, someone is paying you a monthly fee to get them from A to B. So you just pandering to things and just, you know, like I said, you're just not, what you're doing a disservice. You're literally, they're paying you for nothing. So you could really just flip that perspective around.
I had a real light bulb moment myself. Like I went through it. Right now, I can honestly say, hand on heart, I love the fitness industry as a whole. I think the ability and the opportunity that we've all got to empower people, to help them change their own lives, I think it's fantastic. I've had life-changing coaching myself. There are certainly bits in the fitness industry that I fucking hate, but it's like anything, right? But when I was coaching, actually, one of the reasons that I was so kind of like standoffish about getting into coaching is because I'd been alienated by the fitness industry as the guy at 150 kilos. And I had this period where I was like, I fucking hate it. And I lent into it, and that attracted like my tribe of people, all of the people that look like me, that the rest of the fitness industry had kind of like alienated too. And my biggest like light bulb moment was I took this client on. He was 180 kilos. He was 180 kilos, and I was sat and having a conversation with him, a Zoom call, before he'd even signed up. I remember sitting and looking him in the face and being like, "Look, I nearly said his name. I'm not going to say his name. We still talk now." I was like, "This is going to take you about 18 months."
Yep.
And he went, "Can I think about it?" I was like, "Yeah, of course you can." And he went away. And then he came back to me a few days later and he was like, "Right, I'm in. What do I need to do?" And then I asked him, I always ask people, why did you sign up with me straight away? Just because I think it's good for you to get that information for you to then lean into in your marketing. And he was like, well, I spoke to 2 or 3 other coaches and they were all selling me 3-month, 4-month packages. Yep. And I knew then at 180 kilos, that was never going to take me 3 to 4 months. And you were the only person that said 18 months. And he signed up with me and he stayed with me for 2 years.
Yep.
So I'm like, can I rightfully, as somebody that quote unquote hates the fitness industry, am I perpetuating it if I don't tell people? The bits that I hate about it is misleading people, selling people the dream, not being honest. Can I rightfully say that if I don't do the opposite? And then I started being real honest with people and I'm like, oh my God, it works.
Well, do you know what as well? And you're spot on, because how many times have you would have heard this a lot with the amplifier, right? How many times have you heard coaches moan and they go, I've had this myself, and they go, oh, all the clients I'm getting at the moment are rubbish. They're not sticking to things. And I'm like, but all your reels are talking about how, like, you know, you can lose fat without giving up the foods you love. And I'm like, you're attracting your own shit clients, right? So I don't want to give away too much because it's something I've got planning. It's a launch that I'm going to have coming up, but it's going to be a full-on onslaught of my approach to everything, where, like, if you're a wet wipe, and I'm not going to give too much away with the marketing of how it's done, it's like, this is not for you. This is a list of people that this is not for. And you know, again, some of my best rants, some of my car rants, you know those reels that you weren't even thinking about filming. There's no script. You just stick your phone in the car and just go, fuck's sake, and just start tearing into one. All my best reels along those lines are where I'm just sitting there and I'm like, stop expecting a fucking dream physique in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or even 6 months. Like, here's a picture of me when I was after 5 years of training, and look at me now after 15 years of training. It's that, I think for a while, I think the industry went mental with this, like, it's 6 week this and 8 week this, and exactly like you said, a lot of coaches shot themselves in the foot as well, because they were selling that. They were literally selling a 12-week program where someone's going to, arguably 99% of Gen Pop clients after 12 weeks aren't going to have a physique at the end of it. They're going to be in a better position. They might be 10 kilos down. But if they then have been sold this lie of, you're going to be looking absolutely buff after 12 weeks. And then after 12 weeks, yeah, you might have lost 10 kilos, but you're still looking similar. You're just going to leave. They're just shooting themselves in the foot. That client's just going to get to them, just be like, nah, this is shit. As opposed to something I do, again, part of my, it probably is to do with my retention rates, but it's that future pacing of like, okay, cool. So here's what you want to look like. But this first fat loss phase is literally just like, this is just lose fat. There's not enough muscle on the frame. What after this, we need to do this. We need to focus on this. And this is what, and again, I sometimes like someone may turn around and say, oh, you shouldn't do that. But I will quite often tell a client story as well. I'll be like, well, here's my client so-and-so who is actually in a very similar position to you when you started. And here's what they look like at the end of their first fat loss phase. And that was 6 months, for example, 20 weeks, 24 weeks of fat loss. But here's, after they'd spent 6 months in a bit of a gaining phase and then went into their second fat loss phase, here's them at photo shoot condition. And then people suddenly have this like, oh, okay. But people need that. And I think, it's probably one of my biggest gripes with the fitness industry is that misleading, like dream physique in 8 weeks. It's just not happening.
I think, again, I've only been in this as actually working in it. I started in 2019. I took my first client in 2020, but I'd been around it long enough before, like I said, my own attempts and stuff like that. And it's almost like a big pendulum that swings, right? Like the reason that I hated the fitness industry is because when I tried to enter it as a client, the first, like maybe 4 times, it was prep coaches that also have lifestyle clients, which was basically still a meal plan.
It's the same shit. It's the same shit. It's what I moan about all day long. It's the same shit.
It blows my mind. So when I first tried to enter it as a client, it was like almost too, you don't want it enough. It was that side of the pendulum. And then this massive swing, whether it was the rise of people like, I've got so much time for James Smith. When I lost that first 30, so basically I didn't sign up with Mike until I'd lost 40-ish kilos myself, just following what James Smith and Darren Cartel were saying. That if it fits your macros, be kinder to yourself, get your steps in. But then when I stalled at 110, I then needed somebody to then be like, no, now these are the guidelines. These are the things that we need to hit. And now I think it's gone so far off the other end that people are trying to be too soft. And you mentioned it there, and that's why I started laughing, is my favorite, or should I say least favorite saying at the minute, which is still plastered all over people's bios, is I'll get you in the shape of your life without restriction. I'm like, how? Rewriting physics?
Like I tried to explain this to I had a client, I had a check-in literally yesterday. He's doing a photo shoot with me in July. And he's doing phenomenally well. We've gone really aggressive on the start because he's got some experience, and we had this discussion. I was like, listen, if you want to do this photo shoot in the summer, I said, the best thing we can do is let's have this is going to suck, basically. Let's get 8 to 12 weeks of absolute horror show. And then we're going to come back up, have a little bit of a breather, and then we can probably actually get away with going a bit more casual. And it's worked a treat. And he's just about to have like a little bit of a kind of feed up now. But in his check-in yesterday, he said he was like, mate, I've slipped up in the last week. And he goes, I found myself just snacking on toast, and I was like, mate, same. When I in my photo shoot prep last year, it's like, as much as I can sit here and go, I find fat loss easy, it's like, it's not easy. I've just done it enough times that I'm pretty fucking good at it. You make something look easy, but I still, when I am in the depths of a calorie deficit, I fucking hate everything. I hate I'm just like, I'm angry at the world. Do you know what I mean? My mood takes a dip. Everything just goes. It's just making people understand. It's like that ideology of like, get shredded without it being restrictive. It's like, what? Like even for me, where I go, it's easy. I can make it look easy, but it's like, it still sucks. Like those final stages, those final weeks of a prep for me, I am daydreaming of food all day long. And it's like, it is as restrictive as it comes. I'm at kids' birthday parties or out for, I'm not eating. I'm at that point where, there is a time and a place for it. I'm not a fan of it, but when needs must, when it's photo shoot or something extreme, it's like, it's fucking restrictive. There is no other way of putting it. There is no, and anyone I've coached to photo shoot, we're always like, the thing I always do when we start a photo shoot prep, they may have worked with me for a year already. I'm like, this is not the same as the last time we dieted. The last time we dieted was you were 20 kilos overweight and we needed to lose some fat. This is different. This is like, this last stretch, especially the last 6 to 8 weeks are gonna be shit. Do not expect this to not be shit, because you're going to fail. Like, we need to embrace the shit, if that makes sense.
And I think the thing that we need to highlight again, because this will mainly only be coaches that listen to this, is that you don't have to coach people to photo shoots. That's fine. If you're listening to this and going, "Oh, I don't know if that's for me," that's fine too. But I think pretty much every coach that I speak to could do with learning how to be a little bit stricter, to
Without doubt.
be a little bit more, hold people a little bit more to accountability. So I've got a question for you. Do you know what your average retention is?
Yeah. So as a statistic, it was 18 months. It's now closer to 2 years.
So now, kind of like last 10 minutes or so, I'm trying to do the math. I'm not going to ask you how much you charge at the minute, but we've got nearly 100 clients. You've had 4 leaves, so a churn rate less than 5%, which is what everybody should
generally
do.
speaking, the churn rate's less than 5%. Yeah.
2 years, nearly 2 years average retention.
And there's 5 clients that have been with me since 2020 now, and there's I think there's over 20 clients that have been with me since 2021.
So, and as we've covered, are a little bit stricter than, well, a lot stricter than the average coach in your approach, but still nearly 2 years average retention. The numbers are mad. The thing that I never really like talking about this because it just doesn't interest me, but all these people doing the whole, "Oh, well, it's all right for you. You've been there." You've got like 3,500 followers.
Yeah, and actually, do you know what? That's compounded in the last like 6 months. So yeah, like it literally in the last. I think when I did the event in Nottingham, because my topic of speech at Nottingham was how to monetize a small following, because at the event, which was November, I was sub 3,000 followers, and I'm actually about 3,800 now. So I've had literally since November, pretty much 1,000 followers, or not far off. But yeah, it was like the majority of the last, even when I go back to getting screenshots of I was going back through history, I think it was like 2023, I was still like barely crossed the 2,000 follower mark.
So I mean, it's a little bit of a leading question, I guess. What do you think, if you could pick a few things out, like what has attributed to you being able to achieve what you've achieved with a small following?
I think number one, building absolute kind of like I don't know what the word is, like rapport, if you like, with using your Instagram page. So that's point number one. My referral rate is my referrals are very good as well. So I still to this day, a lot of my consultation form is always, where did you come from? And a lot of the time it's Instagram, and if it's not Instagram, it's literally so and so referred me. So at the moment, it's like the referral rate is strong, which I think should be the case for any business, let alone fitness business. If you're not referring people that you've paid to do a job and they're incredible, then if someone asked me now, "Oh, do you know a good electrician?" It's like, yeah, I'm going to send you the person that's done the best job. It's kind of obvious. So but I think with going back to the Instagram, sort of going back to point one, I think it's just building, like, something I have noticed now is a lot of my signups have followed me for 4 years, 5 years, and they are people that I've like had chit chat with or engaged with for a very long time. So again, coming away from this whole, I've had some of my clients that coach that they're quite inconsistent with their content, and then they're just consistent for, so it's probably a wrong word, and they're bang on it for a month. Do you know what I mean? So they just post, and then they're like, "Oh, no one's really signed up," and I'm like, "Dude, it's a month. It's a month, right?" It says, and I'm like, if you go back, like, again, I don't know the exact stat, but it's along the lines of, I think if it was an average, it was like 6 posts a week for me, with either reels or carousels or pictures. And my stories are just a daily, like literally, I couldn't tell you the last time I just didn't post in my stories, like even if it's family shit at home, because that stuff really does help build those deep connections, because a lot of people, they engage with those things. A lot of people have followed me since before I had kids. They remember me posting when Aria was born. That's back in 2019. So it doesn't need to be the biggest following, because the trouble with some of these big followings is people are so obsessed with going viral now, and it's what do you go viral for? Because it's unlikely that something that is your true message is going to go viral, right? Something that's going to go viral is going to be a funny post. Like this Eddie Abu one a couple of weeks ago, I got about 300 follows just off that alone, and there was that little moment I almost wanted it to stop, because I was just like, oh no, what if this just gets like, people just want to see just bashing of stuff, and it's like they're not actually going to be interested in coaching. Jack, who spoke in Nottingham, I'm really good mates with Jack. Jack had this problem with his page. He went up to 100,000 followers based off a recipe that like some recipes that he was posting that bit him in the arse, because he was like, it got to that point where he was like, that's all people wanted to see. So when he would post something that was related to coaching or something serious, his engagement would just drop, and then you end up on this roller coaster of like, you're either feeding what these people have followed you for. So genuinely 3 years ago, if you'd asked me, I'd have loved the idea of like 20, 30, 50,000 followers. I'd be like, oh yeah, that'd be amazing. And now, genuinely, having built this business to what it is, it's 500 people coached in the last 6 years. 500 people have, including like group coaching programs and bits and pieces, but 500 people is like, to have coached that many people, to have my retention rates sitting here with 3,500, 4,000 followers, I'm like, there's nothing to complain about. I don't need, for me, the slow, steady growth of my page is just quality followers that are here for what I have to say, as opposed to chasing that kind of virality. What's the point? Literally, what's the point?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Again, having worked with coaches in different kind of like roles, me for the last few years, I've seen a lot of people that have blown up, and there's coaches now. I could name 2 of them off the top of my head inside the Amplifier, where they blew up when we were working together, and it fucked them.
Yep.
It absolutely fucked them. Like there's one guy who wants to work with young-ish males across the UK that are struggling with their own mental health and mindset and stuff like that, because his own stories, he's come through a lot of adversity and stuff like that. Fantastic guy, fantastic coach. Blew up off 2 or 3 different posts. The majority of his insights were middle-aged women from somewhere crazy like Pakistan. And it was like,
pointless.
What the fuck do I do now?
Yeah.
And then another guy that I know kind of blew up again, typical recipes. An Irish guy noticed that he was blowing up, so leaned into posting more recipes and alienated himself so much that he pretty much had to go back to the scratch and stop posting for ages, let his following die a little bit to get back into it. So yeah, it's like, what are you going viral for? But who are you going viral with? Is that? Yeah, I think that's the right way to do it.
And I think as well, like it's just using your page. Like I know now, when I post a reel that, for example, doesn't really hit the explore, you know, when you check your insights and it was like it's mostly your own followers. It's like, I can still, with whatever it is, 3,800, 3,700, 3,500 followers, whatever, is I can still post a reel that doesn't really hit the explore. So it's just my own following that will get 300-400 likes and 150 comments or something ridiculous, because it's a piss take, it's funny, it's just, and it's like the more you kind of can get like that kind of engagement just off your own audience. Because I sit there and I'm like, it doesn't matter if you've got, when I had 1,000 followers, I remember thinking, oh shit, this isn't enough followers to kind of, but I was still funny. I was still putting my personality across. I was still taking the piss out of everything I do. And I was still, when I did do a piss take reel or something, it would still get 70 comments and everyone would jump in, oh my God, this is so funny, and blah, blah, blah. And then they'd share it. And so it'd be like their friends would follow. So the quality of follows is just, and I think this is the thing. It's like, it's, to me, my page is 3.5 quality, 3,500 quality follows, as opposed to exactly like you just said, 100,000, but maybe 3.5 are quality, and literally the other 95, 96,000 are just shit. It's just a waste of time. It's pointless, literally pointless. I'd rather have my following all day long.
This is something that Simon says a lot. Obviously, Simon, Strong Media, also spoke at the event. One of my best mates, like absolutely to bits. I've done a bit of work with him as a client as well, and he says the exact same thing. Is if you can't even get your current following to engage, you've got no chance. You've got absolutely no chance. So like my content, the call to action is very rarely follow me, because I know it's not getting pushed out to people. Same. I want save, comment. I want that side of things. So now let's take it a step further then. So now there are people like you, smallish following, that are doing those things. They're posting the content consistently. They're not leaning into the viral. They are leaning into the personality. Still not able to grow this business. Now, what do you think is the next thing that is drawing people to work with you?
I'm going to say results. And I think like, it just, to me, I think like there's the two sides of, there's always people by people. Do you know what I mean? Like, we know this, but at the same time, you can like someone as much as you like, but it's like, I use this as an example with some of these big names on Instagram. Again, you want to go back to some of these audiences where they've got 100, 150,000 followers, or in some case, millions of followers, and talking all sorts of shit. But it's like, where's the results? Where's the actual results? Because if you go on my page, all you need to do is spend 2 minutes on my page right now, and you will see some serious results. You will see photo shoots at the top of the page. You'll scroll down and you'll see transformations that are serious transformations, testimonials of those same people telling Instagram how fucking amazing it's been working with me. And I think that social proof side of things is critical. I think it's absolutely critical, because it's kind of like, you can land on any marketing page you like for anything, but you need to know that the product is good. It can be all singing, all dancing in someone telling you how great something is, but it's also kind of like, I think I've got to that point with my page now as well. Again, I put a lot less, whether it's a good thing or bad thing, someone will probably tell me off, but I put a lot less effort now into like my content strategy, if that makes sense, because it's just got to a point now where there's so many fucking results plastered on my page, and most of my reels now are me fucking about and just having a rant at something. So it's just, it kind of works, as opposed to you know, that's the strategy needed to this type of post and this type of post. And I think results. I think that if coaches aren't getting, because again, I've had it with coaches where they're posting really great content and genuinely really great content as well, and like engaging content, and the message is right, and I'm like, but it's the results. You need results. Like that page is, and for me, the results took time, and that's something like if I mean, Dan made a great point when I did the Nottingham event. I think I flagged it up actually. I brought up some transformations that I posted back in like 2021, and I was like, I wouldn't post that now. I literally wouldn't post it now. But back then it was all I had, if that makes sense. So I still had to post it. But like now, because that quality of result has gone up and up and up, even though you know, I've got so many clients now that I have those pictures that are 12 weeks apart, but they're not making it to my page, because it's just like, I only want those really high quality results to hit the page. And again, this is going to be individual. Like you said, not everyone is taking people to photo shoot, for example. Not everyone is doing those things. The photo shoots for me were a game changer. I will say that they are, in terms of befores and afters, they are phenomenal. And I was amazed at, like, you could see the 24 people there in the picture behind me, but I was amazed at how many people wanted to do that shoot. Like, I thought that it was going to be like tumbleweed that was no one. 4 of those people were new signups. That was 20 of my clients that just all threw their hand up straight away and were like, yeah, let's fucking go.
Yeah, I do think I'm glad that you highlighted that. Again, people that are listening to this that aren't transformation based, aren't photo shoot based, results can mean anything, whatever it means to you and your clients. Like Maria, so my wife, shout out for content with Maria __, I think, something like that.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, but again, like, her business revolves around helping coaches build businesses with social media, not go viral. Like, as in, are you talking to your perfect client? Are you posting the right things? Are you doing this? And she's fucking incredible at it. She made a post the other day, which kind of like, she changed the lens on this. And a lot of people were like, oh, because I think when people hear the word, or when coaches hear the word results, they assume before and afters. It's not. It's whatever it means to you. So the point she made was like, recently she was looking for, I think it was like a new fucking curl cream or whatever for her hair. I don't have that problem, obviously. She was looking for a new curl cream, and she had 2 or 3 brands that she had in mind, and she had been following them, and she looked at all the pages, and one of the pages didn't have any pictures of curls. Like, are you going to buy from somebody that's selling a curl cream where they can't even demonstrate that the product works? Like, well, no. And then, like, conversations that she's had since, it's like that. Weirdly, that's the thing that made coaches go, oh, shit.
Literally. Literally.
100%. It's mad. Right. Okay, mate. We've been chatting for an hour and 5 minutes already.
It's too easy. It feels like we've been chatting for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
When the chat flows well.
So I think it's a good time to wrap up. I'm not going to ask you to give more details. I want people to go and follow you. If you don't already, go and follow Geoff, because hopefully this gets released before the thing that you teased. I think that it'd be good for coaches to go and follow you and see what you're talking about, because it's your, maybe it's my echo chamber, but since following you in November after I met you in Nottingham, like, your content is a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of the, I guess, the same kind of the similarities that a lot of the industry has fallen in, and you're very much living the stuff that you talk about of, it's okay to be yourself, and it's okay to coach people hard, and you can grow a pretty fucking successful business doing it as long as you're willing to put in the graft.
100%.
So where can people find you? Obviously, I'll tag it.
Instagram _Geoff_Foden PT. I didn't bother changing it because it was I needed the underscore. I got told off along the way for all that. You shouldn't use underscores, but then it would be Geoff, like there would be all the F's. So it's as it was 6 years ago. Geoff_Foden PT on Instagram is the best place to find me.
You should start a podcast. Genuinely, I don't know if you've got enough time.
We did. I don't know if you saw it's a Golan who me and him did all the sort of the comedy skits where we had quite a few of those go viral. Actually, we were just taking the piss out of bodybuilders. We did a podcast a couple of years ago. It was like a little bit of a trial run, but yeah, it's something I want to bring back because I love it. It's just like this. We've just an hour of just very easy flowing chat. Eh?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I've loved it. Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
I'll speak to you soon.
Take it easy.